Hello friends, Namaskar. My name is Rajiv Chaturvedi and you are watching our program Kisse Sune Unsune. Today we are going to talk about a connection between countries and cities. And the countries are Australia and India and the cities are Canberra and Lucknow. Many of you would not have heard the name of Lucknow, but I would like to tell you that Lucknow is one of the major metropolitan cities in India and it is the capital of the most populous state of Uttar Pradesh. Now, what connects these two cities? It's a very interesting fact. And the common thread between these two cities is a name called Walter Burley Griffin. As we all know, that Walter Burley Griffin was involved in the design and the building of the Australian capital, Canberra. So we'll talk about this connection and we'll take you back to 1911. In that year, the Commonwealth Government of Australia invited a tender to build its capital, which was still unnamed. And there were about 137 participants, which were architects, planners, and organizers of town planning. They tendered for this project. And out of 137 tenderers, the one who got this award was a name called Walter Burley Griffin, who was an architect from America. So he got the contract, and of course, because he had to fulfill all the obligations of completing a project, he traveled to Australia in 1912. So during the time of his stay in Australia, which spanned over the next 7 to 8 years, he overlooked the construction, the designing, and other aspects of building a capital. And then after the project was finished, he obviously went back to US, to Philadelphia, where he had rowing practice. And especially after he was awarded the contract, his name became very popular and his business in the practice increased. So we take a forward jump and press the fast forward button, which will take us to the year 1935. So what happens in 1935? We find that Walter Burley Griffin had arrived in India, and that too in the city called Lucknow. And this is the city which I belong to and I come from. So how did Burley Griffin ended up in India? There are many stories about it, and some of them are that primarily he was awarded a contract to build the University Library of Lucknow, where I studied, and that is what brought him to Lucknow. Another story which goes behind it is that he befriended the provincial governor of that time, and they met at Queen's Court in London somewhere in 1935 or even before that. And on the request of this Governor General, he was invited and came to Lucknow. So once he was in Lucknow, he immediately liked the city and he started to call Lucknow his spiritual home. And it also reminded him of the place that he came from in Illinois, Philadelphia. And he said that reminds me of similarity between the two cities. Lucknow is built on the banks of River Gomti, and he became a very popular figure in Lucknow as well. And people remember him as Bara Sahib or Gora Sahib, as they used to call all the Westerners in those days. During this time of his stay in Lucknow, he was involved in construction and designing of some other projects as well. One of the projects was to design the building of the Pioneer, which was the oldest newspaper in English language in India at that time. So he got involved in designing the building besides what he was doing with the university library. And during that period when he was doing the work for the Pioneer, he was also awarded a contract to make a model plan for the futuristic concept of Lucknow, which he got very emotionally attached to. And in 1936, he developed and built a model plan for his vision of Lucknow, as he had done for Canberra in 1912. So during that process and in that time period, his wife Marion also joined him to fulfill and complete the project because it was a massive project to design the concept of a new city. So an exhibition was held on the banks of River Gomti in 1936 to display his vision about the city. And many people attended that exhibition. Unfortunately, in my research done on my own and with collaboration of some of my colleagues at that time who were working for the Pioneer in the editorial department, we found out that the story behind this exhibition was accurate and true because we met some of the elderly people in Lucknow who remember Walter BurleyGriffin, having met him, seen him riding his bike, pedaling his bike, walking all over the city. And as we said, that he became immensely popular. So that was his last town planning project in India, of course, and last because after that he never undertook any other project similar to nature and size like this. In 1937, while he was still involved and doing many other projects for Lucknow, around Lucknow, he was sick and he was admitted to the local hospital known as King George's Medical College. Now, my emotional connection to Walter BurleyGriffin's story came very closer because during that time, my father was studying medicine at the same college. So, what happened after that is that unfortunately he could not survive the illness, and after 5 or 7 days, he died. Before he died, he expressed in clear terms his wishes that his mortal remains should not be carried back to either Australia or to his home country, America. He said, I want to be buried in this city because this is my spiritual home. And going a little bit back about talking of his spiritual home, he wrote a very interesting letter to his father in December 1935, where he said to his father that I love the city and I am completely in sync with the spirituality and the uniqueness of the city, which reminds me of my own city back in US. So the gist is that he was very comfortable in Lucknow. He spent the last 14 months of his life in Lucknow, and as per his last wish, was buried there. So now we move forward and press the fast forward button to 1988, when Australia was celebrating its 200 years. A parliamentary delegation was sent or was in Lucknow at that time, and they decided to find out where Griffin is buried. So after searching the old church records, they found out the name Walter B. Griffin died 1937 in one of the cemeteries in Lucknow. Incidentally, that cemetery was in a suburb called Nishadganj, and which is very close to where I used to live, only about 10 minutes drive. So a proper epitaph was created and the whole cemetery was refurbished as part of the tribute and an honor to the memory of Walter BurleyGriffin. And I have visited the grave many times during my stay in Lucknow. And then in 80s, mid 80s, I migrated to Australia. And I've since then, this is a subject which is very close to my heart, and I've been talking about this to many of my friends, to many of the people that I've known in the political circle as well. But I was surprised that not many people knew about this fact. They knew about Walter BurleyGriffin, but hardly anyone knew that what happened to him. And looks like that we have almost forgotten that where and what happened to Walter BurleyGriffin after he designed Canberra. So I'm just hoping that something is done to revive his memory, and the government of Australia, in collaboration with government of India, and especially in collaboration with the government of Uttar Pradesh, should do something to pay a tribute to this great designer and architect, which we have known as Walter BurleyGriffin. And even the lake in Canberra is named after him. So we also want to tell you about the connectivity between Australia's Day, which is 26th of January, and India's Republic Day, which is also on the 26th of January. We do not know whether it's a coincidence or whether there is some other connection between these two, but this is a subject of further investigation, which I hope to undertake sometime soon. But I just wanted to tell this fascinating story that I have known for almost 40 years, and I always wanted to share it with a lot of people, especially on a public platform. So I hope that you enjoyed this program, this episode of the connection between the two cities. And in fact, I met our local member of parliament, Paul Scully, recently, and I told him about this some time back. And when I met him again, he asked me that what have you done about that story? And I said I haven't done anything. So he encouraged me to write a story and let others know what's the connection between these two great countries. So viewers, I hope that you enjoyed and liked this program, and please give your feedback if you like this program, and we will endeavor to bring more programs to you in future where you'll be informed and entertained, and wish you all the best for 2021. And I hope that this year brings more happiness and peace to you and your family.